Welcome to the Final Furlong podcast, where we're all wearing black armbands after Willie Mullins told David Jennings in his Racing Post Stable Tour that Fact to File is currently heading towards the Brand Advisory. I'm pretty certain they're doing this just to mess with us, and at the last second they're going to actually see some sense and run him in the race that he will crush his opposition in the Turners. But that hurt. Good news though for George Gorman, because currently Ballyburn is leaning towards the Supreme, although again, Willie Mullins bingo, he could change his mind in a second. Katie Young crying with me earlier on over that Fact to File news. We shall see. We'll still got time to persuade Willie Mullins. But in the meantime, let's go through some of the big performances from the weekend, starting with Shishkin. Now a victory for the gelding by Shalikov. I mentioned Shalikov because he's the sire of Don Cossack, a Gold Cup winner, and George Gorman, in my mind, this is the big threat to Galopin de Champ. I love this performance. He's a little bit like me. He does the bare minimum. He's a lazy sod, and he's won that race with plenty in hand. I think he'll be fine at Cheltenham. What did you make of his performance of the weekend?
Yeah, I think if you take how far he's beaten Protector at seriously, you've got to think he's at least as good as L'Homme Pressé, haven't you? Although that was well improved for a run now. Like, it's be between those two, which one's going to be the best of the English in it? Unless Brave Man's Game bounces back, I still think we shouldn't forget about him. It's not like he's been beaten twice this season, but he's still run well. I think this is a level that's going to trouble Galopin de Champ at all. Yeah, I couldn't trust him back at Cheltenham. I think Kempton and Newbury are tracks that suited him. They're completely flat. They've allowed him to get into a rhythm and not sulk, basically. And back over the undulations at Cheltenham, there's a good chance he's going to start sulking again. And I hope he doesn't. I really hope he doesn't, because God knows we need an English contender in the Gold Cup. Just temper enthusiasm based on that. Newbury's an easy track to get into a rhythm round, and that's essential when you're talking about a horse that might not be the most resolute. Like, the easier he finds it, the better he's going to run. It's simple as that. And he's beaten a few half decent yardsticks here. The Hitman's obviously back to form, but I temper a bit of enthusiasm.
Can you hear him, George?
I can't hear him now.
Well, it would be helpful if I took the mute button off, wouldn't it be? Jesus Christ.
I thought it was me. I was like, oh no.
I thought there was just a really big delay, and I looked at the screen, your lips are moving.
I took a more positive view of it, George. And look, the Boffins at Time Form, they have him second highest rated for the Gold Cup. Now, if Time Form were right about everything, then everybody would use their figures and there'd be no such thing as a betting market, because everything that they tip would be long odds on. So it doesn't always work out, but they've got Galopin de Champ on a whopping 192. Faster Slow, 184. No Plus, No P. Brave Man's Game, 183. L'Homme who we're going to see this weekend, laying down his latest challenge. Maybe he is Britain's best challenger for the race. I personally think Shishkin is. He's on 182. Again, No P, No Plus. Shishkin, with the squiggle, 187. So he's not that far off Galopin de Champ, and he is a new form line coming in as well, Casey. So question for you is, what did you make of him over the weekend, and what do you make of him with a view to Cheltenham?
Yeah, I actually thought he put in a really good performance, and I was actually thinking, for a horse that won a Supreme, he looks like he wants every yard of the Gold Cup trip. 3 Mile 2 would suit him down to the ground. I actually thought Protectorate may have had him a little bit under pressure with his jumping early on, but he stuck to the task well. And I thought he ran out an impressive enough winner on the day. He made a couple of errors. Jumping was okay. I think that's just kind of him. He kind of runs a bit lazily and he looks a bit roguey more than anything now at this stage. He's just a real grinder. He just finds plenty for pressure, and I do think that will help him in Cheltenham. He'll find plenty up the hill. George mentioned that he maybe thought the track might have suited him, but he did win a Supreme, so he does have the track form. I don't know if he has the class to beat Galopin de Champs and to be worrying him on the day, but I do agree with you. I think he's probably second best in the lineup so far, and I definitely be taking a punt on him for each way money anyway. Might have been interesting to see would he have a different kind of view on him if he had stayed up in the King George and won that, and had be coming into the Gold Cup off the back of 2 good wins under his belt? People might be having a different opinion of him off the back of that, and it is something to keep in mind. Probably would have won if he stayed up in the King George. Looking at his performance at the weekend, he just keeps on finding plenty, and it might just be something to note that he might have been a bit shorter in the betting if that had happened. I do think he could be coming under the radar a little bit. I think people have that roguiness in the back of his mind, and is it going to affect him? I think Nikki mentioned about putting the cheap pieces back on him. Be interested to see if he does do that, but I don't know whether they will risk that for the Gold Cup just yet. They might just leave them off. I think maybe just best to do that for the time being. But yeah, overall, very happy with him. Other horse I'd like to mention was just Protectorat. He could be a real Ryanair contender. Bounce them out in front, let him stroll on as fast as he wants to go and make it a real test of stamina. Yeah, I think he might pop up in a race like that. I don't think he's good enough to be a contender in the Gold Cup. He's difficult to place now. He looks like he wants every yard of 3 mile, but he just doesn't settle enough to be competitive at that level. I think if they rode him similar to the way they rode him at the weekend and just let him do his thing out in front, I think he could lay down a challenge in an open enough Ryanair. I'd be kind of looking at him with a view to that.
I hadn't thought of the Ryanair for Protectorat. That's an intriguing one. He's been beaten twice in the Gold Cup. You got to do something different with him. Maybe that race would suit, but I just don't think Cheltenham is his track. He's been beaten there so many times now that you can't keep coming up with different excuses as to why. And his big piece of form is a Betfair Chase win, where admittedly he was visually impressive, but once a Plutard pulled up, that race was awful.
The proximity to Hitman of Shishkin as well. I think you look at the distance from Shishkin to Protectorat and then Protectorat back to Sam Brown and Does He Know? Like, they're about the right distances. It makes far more sense in the context of the race that Hitman has run above himself on his second run back from a wind-up than the Protectorat's underperformed. I'd say I believe the result, and certainly you could take the collateral form with Shishkin and Protectorat and L'Empresse fairly seriously on that basis.
He was third in the Ryanair last year. Like, Hitman on his day is a damn good racehorse. It's just that in Grade 1s he's never really done it. But that day in the Ryanair he did run a big race. And who knows, he might run a big race in it this year as well. I just think he's a horse you can't exactly rely on. Is Edwardstone a horse that you can rely on, though? Because change in tactics, he absolutely loved in the Game Spirit Chase. Now, what did you make of Edwardstone's change in tactics? Great insight from you a couple of weeks ago, George, where you were saying, speaking to some of the team at Allen Kings, they never thought he'd stay beyond 2 miles. Forget that run behind Banbridge. Back down to the ideal trip, and he's back in the winner's enclosure. But what does this mean for his credentials for the Champion Chase?
I may have heard from similar connections that Tom Cannon's been wanting to make the running on this horse since day dot, and understandably, like, different trainers do things different ways. I think if you look through something like in the last 5 years, only 7% of Allen King's horses have made the running, compared to like 26%, I think it might have been, of Paul Nicholls. So he just doesn't like making the running with horses. It's basically as simple as it is. But I heard he came back into the weighing room exceptionally smug, Tom Cannon. He's enjoyed that one a lot, especially when you're seeing the horse pull like he has done the last few times in behind. It's one of those things, once you've done it, it seems really obvious, doesn't it? But nothing was getting near him, was it? Does it make him a Champion Chase contender? Probably not, but he could certainly pick up some of the pieces. No, you can't go Ryanair with him, because we know he doesn't stay. He sort of has, if he's going Cheltenham, he has to go Champion Chase. And, you know, if either of the front two sort of drop an absolute clanger, he might be the horse to come and pick up the pieces. We've seen it before. Blitzlog won a Champion Chase, didn't he? Like, it's happened before, it can happen again. So, yeah, I don't think there's a betting angle on him. I don't think there's anything in his price to back him each way or anything like that. But he, yeah, you'd be looking forward to riding him in the Champion Chase, wouldn't you? The only note of caution I would give is he's not going to find it so easy to make the running in the Champion Chase. Like, if the ground's decent and our lad shows up there on song, Ento de G, I'd be very surprised if he could live with him over the first few fences. Like, there are a couple like that in there. If they take him on for the lead, that he's not going to lay up with. But I think ours is the most likely be honest, looking through the race, that will try and make the running. And if he's on song and his feet are all in decent shape and everything, I don't think Edwardstone will be able to lead. But I could be wrong.
Look, Gentleman to me didn't perform at the DRF, but that doesn't mean that having missed Cheltenham last year, presumably he goes this year because JP wants to win the Queen Mother Champion Chase, and he is a Grade 1 winner over 2 miles. He'd want to be on the front end. Your fella, as you said, Editor de Jeep will want to be on there too. So it's not going to be easy for him. And also, it's just not a betting race right now. He's 8-1. Okay, non-runner, no bet. You can get it now. You're probably going to get 8-1 on the day. How big a field is it going to be? Fernie Hollow lines up. There's another one. I presume all these 2-milers that Willie Mullins has, the massive abundance of them, I imagine they're all going to rock up. Humble Savola will be there. Elixir Dunui will be there. Captain Guinness will be there. John Bon, assuming, will be there. So you're going to get the prices now on the day. Like, non-runner, no bet is a great concession if you're humming and hawing about a horse like Fact to File. Jesus Christ, Willie. But if you're humming and hawing about the potential destination of a horse, you have that safety net of non-runner, no bet. The problem with the concession is these odds compilers are pricing these horses as close to the price they think they will be on the day, and then it's often they're a much bigger price day of race. You don't have to be getting involved right now if you don't want to be. Katie, what did you make of Edwardstone's change of tactics and his potential prospects in the Champion Chase?
Yeah, I thought this looks like it's the way to ride him for sure. He actually, I think, he recorded his highest RPR since he won the Tingle Creek in December 2022. So that kind of puts him right back in the frame here. Like George said, didn't appreciate the step up to 2.5 and a drop back to 2 miles. And riding him with a bit more positivity seems the right thing to do with him. I think his enthusiasm in his races has probably been a little bit of a negative impact in the past. And I think it was the right call to kind of explore different options with him. And it paid off on Saturday. I thought Tom left no stone unturned and he went on this end-to-end gallop, and it was going to take a serious performance from one of the field behind to kind of take him on. And I thought he looked like he had the field pretty stretched from Flagfall. I don't think Boot Hill would have been able to kind of rise a challenge. He looked like he was trying to make a move, but I thought he had him pretty well covered when he fell. Don't know whether he will, like George said, be able to replicate what he's done here at Cheltenham. I don't think he'll have an easy lead like he did at the weekend. And I do think if he does get his own way out in front, he might just be setting up a nice pace for El Fabiolo to aim off. The only thing I would say that he does have in his favour is out of John Bon, El Fabiolo and himself, he's probably standout performer in the jumping department. His jumping is probably lengths clear of John Bon and El Fabiolo. So in that regards, you would have to give him a chance if he can get into a rhythm out in front like he did on Saturday.
Eddie, and also you just imagine Paul Tanner is just going to sit right in behind Tom Cannon and go, tow me into the race, son, because the faster you go, the better my horse is. And if they go a slow gallop, that's no problem for me either.
And if Editor de Guy and Edwardstone take each other on in front, El Fabiolo just wins further and further. Yeah. It's like you were saying there, but with the two of them going hammer and nails, it's just going to set it up for him, isn't it? Yeah. Or he'll fall at the second. Who knows?
Either way, Big Willie style. Either way, Big Willie style comes out on top. And Big Willie style is probably going to be coming out on top in the Mare's Chase. Most people think with Dino Blue, but I think not. Because I'm a fool. And I lost my money on Allegorie de Vassy last year. I studied the French videos, went back and watched her runs in France going left-handed. She was a disaster on her first run left-handed. Had a couple of starts right-handed, comes back left-handed, jumps straighter. And I said to myself, oh, Willie's got this horse absolutely spot on. He'll have improved in what the French did. She'll murder Impervious. And I lost my stones. And now I'm going to do it again, George. Because she's got me again. This was a brilliant performance over 2 miles for Allegorie de Vassy. She's beaten a horse who needs to go right-handed and wasn't in Riviere de Tel. And Masakata, who very much underperformed. Maybe the drop to 2 miles helped her, but she jumped straight this time. There was no issues going left-handed. And I'm back on board the Allegorie de Vassy gravy train, where it's either going to be lobster dinner or Tesco noodles on Gold Cup Day.
Nice. I can't with her. It was only a month ago we saw her still jumping right round a right-handed track. Do you know what I mean? Like she's maybe she's going to be good enough, but like Cheltenham's going to be much more of a jumping test than that. Whether she's going to stay straight going back to Cheltenham, so like only obviously only Impervious was actually good enough to beat her last year. It's sort of, you know, we're sort of saying she doesn't act round Cheltenham and that. She was still second in the Mares, not beaten all that far. But I'm running out of horses to fancy for the Mares Chase, to be honest. I can pick holes in most of them. And like it sort of leaves me like I still think Riviere de Tel can put it all together on the day. Back up to 2.5 mile. I think she's better off going further, going left-handed. She's still only 7. I think she can build on what she did last year. And like you could say that, probably you could say the same for Allegorie de Vassy. I understand that, but I don't see any value at the top of that market at all. Maybe Bride's Hill, but it says it all. You wear it Wells, 5th favourite for it on the best odds, and doesn't come here at all. Like there's never jumped a fence.
Did you just say you fancy Riviere de Tel for this race?
I fancy her each way.
Do you hate money?
The only one that I think is going to be all right at the trip. I think she can build on what she did last year. I do think she can take a step forward. She's only 7.
Where she nearly killed Jordan Gainford. You're out of your mind, son.
I think she's beaten Allegorie de Vassy once this year, and I think it's probably more of a disadvantage to Allegorie de Vassy going left-handed than is Riviere de Tel over 2-4. That's all. And look at the difference in their prices. I'm saying it's an each way bet. It's an each way bet. It's not a win bet.
I listen. I will agree with that in the sense that she's a big price, but she's a big price for a reason, son. She has absolutely no chance in a Mares Chase at Cheltenham. Whereas Allegorie de Vassy, look, she might get. It's entirely possible that Dino Blue has been crying out for this distance. Mark Walsh will ride her quietly. He'll give her the absolute best chance of getting the distance, but I think Dino Blue's a speedball, and I don't think she wants to step up and trip. I think she's almost coming here by default. She can't beat El Fabiolo at Leopardstown, so she sure as hell ain't going to beat him at Cheltenham. So they're going to roll the dice, and I'm hoping that this year is the year for Allegorie de Vassy. She just came up against a really superior horse who was faster, better, classier in Impervious last year, but there isn't a horse of that caliber this year. Or is there, Katie Young in Dino Blue? What did you make of Allegorie de Vassy?
I thought Paul gave her a lovely tactical ride. They went hard early on. He was patient with her, and I thought it was very good and very good to note that both Jack and Paul were on horses that jumped out to the right, and they both went round the complete outside the track. Like she jumped nearly through a wing, I think, at the second fence, and he just ensured that he was going as far to the right as he could, so he wasn't losing ground from her jumping across the fence. He was aiming her as far as he could get her to the wing on the outside of the fence to ensure that she didn't lose, as she was losing as little ground as possible. And if you rewatch the race, he had her pinned nearly to the outside of every fence the whole way around. Jack was kind of doing something similar with Riviere de Tel because she also does jump right, but there's no chance of her being able to replicate that at Cheltenham. Like, absolutely no chance. I think she's going to be vulnerable around Cheltenham, going left-handed again. I think both her and Riviere de Tel are much better going right-handed, and I just can't see Allegorie de Vassy being able to replicate what she can do on her best form against the likes of Dino Blue, who's a much better jumper, doesn't have any worries about jumping out to the right, losing ground at any of her fences. She's quick. I do think she will stay the 2.5 trip. She's another year older now. I think she does have bags of speed, but I thought at the Dublin Race Festival, I thought she just looked like she kept plugging on and at the same gallop. She didn't have the turn of foot that El Fabiolo did. I wouldn't be backing against Dino Blue with Riviere de Tel and Allegorie de Vassy. The only other horse that I probably am leaning towards is Limerick Lace. Whether she will turn up there, I don't know. They might have other plans for her. But apart from Dino Blue, she's the only one that's kind of standing out to me at the moment. I just couldn't have Allegorie de Vassy around Cheltenham. I just think she's just going to throw it away with how badly right she jumps. I think Dino Blue is a solid bet for this race.
You'll learn. Gold Cup day. I'll be cheering her on as she comes there on the bridle to go and win. And just like last year, I'll be roaring in my producer's face about how Allegorie de Vassy for the win. And then she goes and gets absolutely duffed as somehow Impervious is able to just laugh at her. And my producer was laughing at me, basically, by the end of that. By the way, that reminds me, all 4 days of Cheltenham 2024 live on TalkSport and TalkSport 2. Briefly on the SBK PP Hogan Memorial Cross Country Chase, Coko Beach. This is a story of two contrasting fortunes for horses who were going cross countrying for the first time. There was Statler, who was sent off the well-backed 7-4 second favourite behind Coko Beach, who was the 11-8 favourite. Coko Beach absolutely loved it. He was almost like the Iron Spider-Man suit that Tom Holland wears. He grew an extra 4 legs like a spider and had no problem jumping those fences, particularly the first Banks fence. Statler, on the other hand, like a clown running across a minefield. He was a complete and total disaster. Coko Beach, George, what did you make of him?
Yeah, look, he's obviously he's taken well to the fences. Find a little bit more improvement for them to beat likes of Manila Indo, I would have thought. But he's an interesting contender for sure. Yeah, like I said, at 9 years of age, it's nice to have something to freshen him up a bit. But having said that, he's off a career high mark now anyway, so maybe he's getting better. But yeah, he's got to take another step forward to take on Manila Indo and that off level weights. But we'll have to wait and see. I think it's one of those. I think the cross country is very much going to be decided by the weather on the day. Like you have a very different winner depending on whether it's good or soft. I know the cross country track's never bottomless, but if it's soft enough, I think Delta Works probably still the horse to beat, isn't he?
I just wonder about him. Why did they keep introducing new horses to take him on? Like initially, we were being told that Conflated, no horse had ever jumped the Banks fences as well as Conflated, and he was going to head there. Then Coko Beach is the one who ends up going. Conflated is going to go for the Ryanair.
There's one reason for that. It's because it's the one race at the festival Gordon knows he can win if he throws everything at it. Because he doesn't have a particularly strong batch of novice hurdlers this year. He doesn't really have a triumph horse. Like Willie's got him beat on pretty much every front, but this is a Cheltenham Festival winner in the bank, so he's got to throw what he can at it. Especially, we all know like he likes to target the Grand National as well. It's a great prep race for the National, so it's sort of 2 birds with 1 stone for him, isn't it?
But I thought Galvin ran a cracker in the big Grade 2 hurdle race behind Hidden Valley Lake at the weekend, and that's over a distance and obstacles that don't really suit him anymore on ground that wouldn't have been ideal. Heavy, like he handles heavy ground, but he's better with good in the description, and he kind of got screwed by the going last year. He's the one that would really interest me for the cross country, but ground dependent. Yeah,
I thought it was nice return for Galvin. He did have a bad incident at the Aintree Grand National, and it'd be interesting to see has that left its mark, in the future with him, because it was a nasty incident that he picked up. I do think Delta Work and Galvin are the classy horses in this race. And Coko Beach might just lack that little bit of class that they have off level weights, but you can't be discouraged by what he's shown us at the weekend, and he's a very exciting horse to go to Cheltenham with.
There's been a big market move from Manila Indo today, so he's already run a nice race over the cross country fences, and he's a former Gold Cup winner. If we're talking about back class, that's going to be the one that most people will be interested in. And if this is the big race that Gordon Elliott is only guaranteed to win at Cheltenham, then it's going to be pretty sickening for him if the De Bromhead and Blackmore team come along with Manila Indo swinging away on the bridle off level weights. That being said, though, George Gorman, I'm pretty sure Gordon's left ear is burning. And when he watches this back and go, what the hell is this guy talking about? I've got Found a 50 for the Arkle. I've got the Gold Cup winner in Jerry Colom, who's going to stay better. And of course, he's got potentially the best novice hurdler going to Cheltenham. Obviously, Ballyburn is a serious contender, but Brighter Days Ahead looked really impressive at the weekend. This mare's novice hurdle is shaping up to be the novice race of the festival. Jade de Grugy, the winner, taking on Dicerdinos, who won't have a penalty. Jade de Grugy will. So will Brighter Days Ahead for that graded race win at Down Royal. But this was impressive over the weekend. She's absolutely bolted up from, I suspect, a nice long-term prospect for the De Bromhead team back in second, the next French horse, but she couldn't have done it much better. Yeah,
I should say I do think Gordon Elliott will win the Arkle. So I'm being a bit facetious when I say it's his only chance of a winner. But
dig up, stupid.
You understand my point. And Tiupu will win the stairs if it rains, but only if it rains. Bright Days Ahead, yeah, like, couldn't ask for much more, could you? Like, she's won pretty well. Hard to weigh up, really, 100% what she's beat. She's given away a little bit of weight, which helps. You know, she had a penalty to carry. Yeah, Jade DeGrugy's got the form in the book, is the thing. She's been there and done it against sort of well-proven horses, and it's just it's that age-old thing. Do you back the form in the book, or do you back the horse that just shows great promise, but you know, might not have beaten too much? I know this is a Grade 3 winner, but it was only a listed race on heavy ground at the weekend, and it was over 2 mile 5 rather than the trip that we're running over at Cheltenham. I think this horse does look more of a future stayer. I suppose Jade DeGrugy probably does a bit as well, but I think Jade DeGrugy might have a bit too much boot for this horse on the day, would be the way I'm looking at it. I
agree. I really like this horse. I like Dyserinos as well for Fergal O'Brien. That's going to be a huge day for Fergal with Grambo in the stairs hurdle, and then Dyserinos in the mares. And obviously, she's been campaigned very cleverly. She doesn't go to Cheltenham with a penalty, whereas Mullins and Elliott's horses will have a penalty to carry. I still think Jade DeGrugy's the one. And the betting has them all locked together. Jade DeGrugy, generally 5-2. Brighter Days Ahead is now the same price. With most firms, there's a couple going 3-1. And Dyserinos has been pushed out to 4s. That's wild. She should not be that price. These horses are being priced up as close to what the odds compilers think they're going to be on the day. Right now, you're going to get bigger odds about one of these horses. One of these 3, something's got to give. One of them's got to go and drift. And Fun went to Exeter and won for Willie Mullins over the weekend. I'm sure she's going to take her chance. Her price has been cut from between 12 to 6-1. Katie, what did you make of Brighter Days Ahead? And does the trip of 2 mile 1 in the Mares Novice concern you?
Not ideal now, coming back from running over 2 mile 5 back to dropping back to 2-1. I don't think she's necessarily having any problem with that. Like, she looked as though she was probably running a little bit in Jack's hand throughout the race. They just never looked like they were going quick enough for her. I don't think it will be a concern for her going forward. I'm not sure whether that was the strongest renewal race we'd seen, but she did win pretty easy, and you can't knock her for what she's done. I just thought she used class throughout. I think her jumping is pretty spot on. I'd be very excited about her. I was a little bit worried that we hadn't seen her for a while, since November, but Gordon said that there was a little niggly issue. It wasn't much, but she just missed her intended targets over Cheltenham. So it was good to see her back. And this will set her up nicely for Cheltenham. Like George said, she was giving her rival £7 here, so that adds another bit of boost for her going forward. She's the way Gordon is speaking about her. If he didn't think she was as good as she is, he wouldn't be bigging her up like he is. He's very, very good in that way. Like if he likes a horse, he'll say it, and he's usually spot on about them. She's a sister to like Cole Potter, Mighty Potter down that family line. Like they're all classy horses. Like you can't knock that bloodline at all. The only concern I would have was maybe would she prefer a little bit of a cut in the ground? Would be my only thing. But I would be under the impression that Jade DeGrugy may just have a little bit more boot, like you'd said. I think she could be hard to beat. I'd be keen on Brighter Days Ahead, but wouldn't be wiping out Jade DeGrugy either, because she's very, very good also. Yeah,
I'm almost expecting Willie Mullins to come out and say, you know what, we've been thinking about it. We're going to send Jade DeGrugy for the Bearing Bingham. He's screwing us on everything else that he's going to Cheltenham with. Jeez. Brighter Days Ahead's down. I don't even want to put that out there, by the way, because they almost did that with Let's Dance and then went for the Mare's Hurdle because there was the bonus. But, oh, dearie me. The Dam of Brighter Days Ahead. This is... Have you ever heard of this before, both of you? Mighty Potter, French Dynamite, Indiana Jones, Caudwell Potter, the most expensive racehorse ever sold at public auction for jumps, and Brighter Days Ahead. That's 5 horses who've all won at least 75 grand. All of them winners. That's extraordinary that one dam could produce that many jumps horses of this caliber. Have you ever heard of a dam producing, like we've seen it on the flat with Galileo's mum producing See the Stars and many others, but
just about
rare for jumps horses.
See the Stars, so Galileo rare. And Black Sand Bellamy and Urban Ocean. And over jumps, probably not. I'm sure there's a really obvious one I'm missing, but I haven't seen that. I was just going to say, actually, through the sire side, you obviously got Jade de Grugy's obviously from the family of Sire de Grugy, but she's also a Dr. Dino who produced State Man and Sharjah, whereas Bright Days Ahead is a Cap Guard who's produced A Plutard and Clan des Oboes. So like, that would sort of give you an idea potentially on breeding which one of them is going to have a bit more speed. But Cap Guards do tend to show speed young. They do develop into stayers. I tend to find that they'd be a bit nervy and a bit sort of, they live off their nerves. I think that sort of helps with their speed when they're younger because they travel a bit stronger. But as they relax, as they get older, they tend to get much further. But yeah, that's potentially a little clue into which of them is going to have more boot over 2 mile 1.
Let's talk about a couple of horses with a view to Cheltenham. Fun one. Brief thoughts on her, but handstands. Very, very keen to get your thoughts on handstands. George, what did you make of beating Django Bay, the Grade 1 winner? That form's taken a bit of a knock. Favour and Fortune beaten by Fun. Django Bay beaten, although was giving a penalty away.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the form of that entry race whatsoever. Like, Django Bay is just not a horse that's caught my imagination. I know the horse he beat, Ascot, tell her the name, has gone and won a couple of races at Huntingdon since, isn't it? 2 races at Huntingdon since, between pulling up in the entry race. What the Formby it's called now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you know, like that's all that's really come out of that. I don't know quite how good Django Bay really is. It was a very good ride from Harry Cobden. I'll say, if it means anything towards Cheltenham with the novice hurdles, I very much doubt it. And yeah, you might still have workable handicap, Mark. That's one thing I would say. He could be. Has he had, how many runs he had this season? Not enough.
That's true.
He needs one more run to run in one of the handicaps at the festival, and it's not really enough time. That's a shame because he's up to a 135 now, and that would be very workable. It's just a shame he won't be able to run one of the handicaps. Yeah, I just think you have to take it as what it is. I think it's a bit below the standard for it's a listed race now, that isn't it? Yeah. It's probably about right for a listed race, that standard, but with regards to talking about Cheltenham, maybe this horse could progress into being a novice chase candidate next year, would be my thinking. I think he's probably more one of them. They do the Radfords, they try and buy chasers, you know. They're actually, Tom Costello Jr. certainly used to, I don't know if he still does, but he found them horses like Summersby and Calgary Bay and like those types, and I'm sure they'll be thinking that way with this horse. So my view on him is I'm looking forward to seeing him jump a fence, certainly more than I'm looking forward to seeing Django Bay jump a fence anyway. But yeah, it doesn't really mean anything for Cheltenham this year anyway, does it?
I mean, you can take some positives. He's unbeaten, he's travelled well, he's jumped well. There's a lot. It's horrible ground, but he's handled it really, really well. How do you think he'll shape up there, Katie?
Yeah, he's actually a horse I've been following since he left the point-to-point scene here in Ireland. And I think he actually looks like he could be very good value for the money that he cost. I think he's probably a horse that's just coming under the radar a little bit. They haven't asked too many questions of him yet, but he keeps answering all the questions thrown at him, and he's improving with every run. Like George said, I've been agreeing with him. I don't know whether he would play a big part in the Cheltenham Festival, be the 2.5 anyway by the looks of it, but I couldn't see him being competitive against the likes of a couple of Willie's horses. I just think he's a real horse for next year. Very, very raw, plenty of untapped potential there. And I think, yeah, very exciting horse in regards to next season, no offences. I think Connection seemed keen to be going to Cheltenham with him. I do think he has a nice mark for a handicap, but like George said, it's going to be tight now to get another run into him before Cheltenham. Aintree could be a possibility for him, and they might just wait for there. But he's actually a horse I'm actually quite keen on. I think he's lovely. I think he has everything. I think he's a really lovely attitude, and I definitely think he's going to be a horse for the future. But just regards to Cheltenham, I couldn't see him lining up there, to be honest.
Yeah, they talked about the Baring Bingham as a possibility. He's worth his go at it, to be fair, but you would imagine Slade Steele reading Tommy wrong.
Yeah.
Little antique. You just imagine one of those is going to have a little bit too much from me. Hopefully, Peter Scold. Quick one on American Mike. Irish Grand National is being talked about by Gordon Elliott for this fella after he beat Nick Rocket. I thought he enhanced his national on chase prospects in no uncertain terms. He was given a odd enough ride by Paul Townend. He was probably trying to look after him with a view to the next day on ground that was pretty horrible. Looked like Manella Kakuna really didn't. He probably got racing a little bit too far out, to be fair, in that ground, and I think that's a better performance. But it's a boost to Fact of Files form, Katie. Will he please run him in the Turners? For goodness sakes, will he? Jesus Christ, he'll absolutely bolt up in the Turners. Don't do it to us, Willie. Don't do it to us. American Mike, Irish Grand National next. What do you think?
Yeah, I think... I don't think 2.5 will suit him at Cheltenham. He's not in the tree and he's not in the national hunt chase either. So they'd have to supplement him for the 3 mile grade 1, but don't think they can supplement now for the national hunt chase. So only option would be the 3 mile grade 1. Gordon seems to be a bit puzzled by him, I think, like everyone else watching him. I think the only logical way to go with him would be the Irish National. I don't think Cheltenham will suit him. I just don't think, in regards to his jumping, I think Navan suits him because it's a big galloping track and he gets into a rhythm very easily around Navan. I think if you look back at his jumping, if he meets one on a good stride, he's very good. He just cannot adjust his stride on a short stride at all. He's either good long, good when he's hitting it right, but if he has to come back and adjust his stride, he just can't do it. And I think that will catch him out around Cheltenham. You need to be in a rhythm around a track like that, and I just don't think he will be able to do that. I think the Irish National would be the logical target with him. Like Gordon said, he's just a bit of a puzzle, and you'd be scratching your head watching him. But it's good to see him back to kind of where he probably should be. I do think Manella Kakuna probably didn't jump as well as he should, and probably was a little bit disappointing again. Nick Rocket was given a patient ride, just couldn't quite get to American Mike. But yeah, I think there's more questions gone unanswered after watching this than probably answer going forward. Unfortunately for Rory, Champ Dude just didn't even turn up again here, and he's probably regressed more than progressed this season. And I was quite disappointed with him. I thought he was going to be a leading player in the national chase at the start of the season, but yeah, he's just completely lost his way at this stage. I don't think he's as bad as that, but yeah, you wouldn't want to go against Cheltenham off the back of that run. So more of a puzzling race than anything, but American Mike, I think they should stay at home with him for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like Irish Grand National for him. It sounds like Nick Rocket is going to stay at home as well. I've just been sent a text from the Willie Mullins media day, and it basically says, your bet in the national chase is insert colourful language. So, great. 33-1 about Nick Rocket. Nice little prep run there, and apparently Willie just said, yeah, disappointed, we're going to keep him at home for Ferry House. With a view to the national chase, though, Corbetts Cross. I mean, the positive is Derek was booked to ride, George. It was all going so well, and then he gets taken out by Run Wild Fred. Emmet has said no run between now and Cheltenham. He's a little bit sore, but he's okay. He doesn't see anything wrong with his jumping, and no Cheltenham target to find yet, but surely it's the national chase. Unless... yeah, Emmet, run him in the Brown Advisory. That way we get Fact of File in the Turners.
Yeah, go national hunt chases thing. I know he says he doesn't find anything wrong with his jumping, but I think going a bit slower, he'd give him a chance to sort of. I just think he show jumps a little bit, and I think over 4 miles that won't be so much of a problem. I wouldn't have any problem with what happened at the weekend. Like. Yeah, he has jumped out to his left, but yeah, you know, he'd have got away with that in any other race. It's just unfortunate. It's one of those things, and I couldn't see it leaving a mark on him really. I think he'll be fine with a view to Cheltenham from there. Whether he's good enough is a different thing. But I don't think this fall will be the deciding factor whether he does or doesn't win the national hunt chase.
I agree. A couple of bumper winners to talk about. Teeshan was very impressive at Exeter. Cantico, I thought, was going to open up and become Patrick Mullen's ride in the champion bumper. He won, but not sufficiently impressively enough for me to be going, great, I can top up my champion bumper bet. In fact, I was almost inclined to just cash out. Teeshan, by the way, was put up by Richard Pugh, RT Horse Racing's commentator, on this show at the start of the season as a potential star to follow, and he looks it, to be fair. And then Katie comes along and tells me, Paul Nicholls said he's not going to go to Cheltenham. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Right, of the two, Katie, if I can take Cantico, you can take Teeshan. Which one would you have?
I think I'd have to be siding with Teeshan. I know probably not the strongest races that he probably won at the weekend, but there was real talk about him after he won his point-to-point. He was actually, funny enough, I was actually looking through this yesterday. He's out of a mare that beat Carlingford Lock in a handicap around Killarney once upon a time. So yeah, that was a good few years ago now. But yeah, no, I think he could be real special horse going forward. I wasn't overly impressed with Cantico. I know he did it well enough at the weekend. I think there's a few of Gordon's Jalander Dairies. I'd have him way above him, to be honest. I think he looks like he lacks gear. I just couldn't, he just doesn't spring to my mind. But yeah, no, I was quite impressed with Teeshan. Be interesting to see where the Paul Nicholls does run him, because he seems to be shying away from Cheltenham at this stage. But yeah, out of the two, I'd be siding with him.
I forgot to say, by the way, Katie was saying something on the show a few weeks ago about a Gordon Elliott horse who won a bumper for Gigginstown and going, the enabler, I don't know about him. She just had a real raised eyebrow. Everyone was raving about this impressive winner. He's cost an awful lot of money, beautifully bred. And Katie was like, I don't know about him. Don't think he'll be much good. Got lapped the other day. Well done, Katie. He put us off that one. Steered us right once again. George, any other business? Anything we haven't mentioned that we should have?
Of the others, I would just say the other one, It's on the Line. Obviously beat Billaway. Billaway did Billaway things. Like it looked like his pilot completely given up at 3 out and then managed to get to the rail and flew home. I think they got racing a long way out. It's on the Line and Ramillies, and finished very tired. He's the horse with all the right form for Cheltenham. That was a right grueler to have, 4 weeks out from the festival. I just temper enthusiasm on him. He was walking at the line. I don't think that was ideal for him now with a view to Cheltenham. And if I was going to put one in, maybe, because a lot of these at the top of the sort of fluffed their lines in recent weeks, or not being as impressive as we had hoped. I do like Rocky's Howyer. He's another one that has beat all the right horses. He didn't run much of a race, I don't think, in the Fox Hunters last year. Was he 5th or 6th? I could be totally wrong. That's just off memory. But he's one that sort of kept his powder a bit dry for Cheltenham, and he could be second time lucky in the race this year. Just in a year where you're looking Billaway, Vaucelet, what's their name, Ferns Lock, the other one, Famous Claremont was a non-stayer in the race last year. I think Rocky's Howyer, he's well found in the market, but I think he could spring a bit of a surprise in the Fox Hunters.
We're going to have a point-to-point expert on the show, specialises in point-to-point betting, in a couple of weeks' time. We need you on that show, George, because your family is obviously steeped in point-to-point.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We'll have to
talk about our pointers for the whole show, but that's fine.
Never mind that, Emmet Mullins. We've got this wrapped up.
Oh, no, not current ones. Ones from 15 years ago.
Oh, great. Yeah, just random tangents about reminiscing. Yeah. So, George, what do you think of Premier Magic? Well, let me tell you about this horse from 15 years ago that we once had at the Gorman team.
Looking forward. It's getting slipped in the conversation for sure.
Watch out for that.
10 rides on, I think.
We might very well do a competition where if you can work out when George is going to mention She's a Cracker and get the exact time frame exactly spot on, you win yourself a Final Follow podcast mug or something along those lines. We shall see.
There have been drinking games made out of exactly that at Gary Moore's place. Nice. Christmas parties. It's drink every time George mentions.
Stay tuned. Your chance to get obliterated on Final Follow podcast bingo coming your way very, very soon. But the reason I mention this is because, look, George knows an awful lot about the point-to-point scene. I don't have a bloody clue about these hunter chasers. I have some semblance of form. I can tell you right now, I think Ferns Lock is a shocking price for this. I don't think Cheltenham's going to suit him at all. He couldn't beat It's on the Line at Down Royal, which is a more speedier track. If he can't beat him there, how in the name of God is he going to beat him over the stamina-sapping new course and the Gold Cup trip? Don't get it. Really like David Christie. It's only a matter of time before he does train a Cheltenham Festival winner in this race, but this is not the right horse. I'd be going to Aintree. And the man who's coming on to talk about this agrees. But hey, maybe we're all wrong. We shall see. And also, he was saying Sam Crow's got absolutely no chance in this. Gordon Elliott's left ear is really going to be burning after this show. But even Katie is nodding along there in agreement to that one. So more on that to come in a couple of weeks' time, and some more specials coming your way too, including the return of Gavin Lynch to the Final Furlong podcast. Coming very, very soon. From Katie, George, and myself, I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, like and subscribe on YouTube. It was much appreciated. And likes, much appreciated. In fact, scientists have proven that if you like this video, your day instantly improves. Likes should just shoot up. From Katie, George, and myself, we'll talk to you again very, very soon on the Final Furlong podcast. Look after yourself and each other. God bless.